of this, let's bring in Ed Lee, managing editor at Recode, and Venky Ganesan, who is managing director at Menlo Ventures. Welcome to both of you. Venky, I'll start with you, and I want to talk specifically first about this stock call. And let's take a listen to Ken Sena, who's the analyst who made that call earlier on the show.
I think that as we look at data science just across the space broadly, Amazon is leading the charge there, and I think they sit in a position of being able to apply it both in terms of their retail operation, as well as being able to productize and commercialize that for businesses through enterprise. And I think as we start to even think about how video stands to reshape, and we look at the large addressable market there, I think Amazon sits in a good position as well.
I mean, Venky, it's hardly a contrarian call, but would you risk betting against it?
No, I wouldn't. I think he's right. Amazon has been on fire. I would say three things. One, they've become the dominant channel for e-commerce. Two of our Menlo companies, Eero and Roku, use them, and Eero has been sold out, and that's due to their success. Two, data science and machine learning. I think they're leading the front over there. And third, with AWS, they have the preeminent cloud service. So I think they are definitely well positioned in terms of being the stock for this year.
But Ed, when you think about quarter-to-quarter stability, so many people have favored Google because they have the secret weapon of Ruth Porat and the discipline that she brings. What does Amazon have in that department?
Well, a diverse array of businesses, clearly, AWS is an example, and even their retail business, it's not, they don't own all their inventory. A lot of it's the marketplace part, and that's actually the faster growing part of their business, where third-party sellers use Amazon to sort of sell their wares and warehouse it within Amazon's warehouses. So I think that's a big part of their secret sauce right now.
You know, Venky, is there a headline risk to Amazon? I hear everything you're saying about their core business, about Amazon Web Services, but let's not forget the great variable of Donald Trump, because Donald Trump has made some critical comments about Amazon. I think he said something like, oh, do they have problems if I become president? Do you fear there's some sort of an antitrust headline risk around the president-elect?
Well, someone I know in Washington said that politicians campaign in poetry but govern in prose. So I do agree that Mr. Trump has said a lot of statements, but I do think that when he comes into office and they look into it, they'll realize that Amazon is good for America, and Amazon's success is good for America, and that it makes sense for the government to support companies. If you want to make America great and you want to put America first, you do that by supporting innovation and entrepreneurship and job creation, and Amazon does all of those.
You know, Ed, if you extend the logic of the bullish call on Amazon, Ken Sena had this morning about data science and essentially using customer data to get an additional edge, it really does put you in mind of saying, look, scale begets scale. The biggest are going to have a competitive advantage on that basis. I mean, and does that make them even more of a target because they're going to be that much more dominant?
It makes them more of a target. I'll put a little skepticism on it. The data science thing, I think, is absolutely an emerging area that companies like Amazon are trying to capitalize on. But let's take a look at this. Their Echo, right, which is their most popular selling device that they've created, they ran out, right? Where was the data science on that? Shouldn't they have built enough to get a sense of, oh wow, the demand's going to be higher, we need to produce more? So they were suffering just like any other retailer or any other business.
That's a good problem to have. It's better to
Definitely
have
a nice problem to have.
And then you create demand and you create some of the
true, but
the
chances are
nature around the Echo.
But in the holiday season, if it's not available, you'll move on to something else. It's a sale you missed out on. So I don't think any retailer wants that situation ultimately. But yes, it is a good problem to have, certainly.
Or you do what I do and you buy it anyway and just tell the gift recipients that they're going to have to wait a few days.
Right in the car.
Yeah, right. But Venky, when the company says this holiday was its best ever, its Prime Day was its best ever, I mean, these are sort of voodoo metrics. At what point do you think the company needs to open the kimono a little bit and actually give you a little bit more to chew on?
But this is not new, Kayla. Jeff Bezos has been incredibly good about not actually revealing a lot of things going on. I think most people didn't know how big AWS was until they finally released the data. So my sense is that they're gonna manage the information. The street believes them, and their performance backs up what they have said. So they have a lot of credibility in the street, and they can manage not sharing a lot of information.
Is valuation ever going to matter, Venky, for Amazon? 86 times forward earnings, 5 times PEG ratio, 3 times price to book. Does valuation ever matter? It has not in 15 years.
So valuation, like gravity, does matter, but it's also like beauty in the eye of the beholder. And I think what Bezos has been able to frame is have the discussion be based on growth and opportunity and cash flow and not on profits. How long that holds, time will tell.
Well, it's been holding for 20
Another
years.
metric I'll give you, enterprise value to EBITDA on Amazon, something like 33, 34 times. Netflix, 159 times. So, you know, in terms
Yeah,
of
but
you wanna
Netflix
look at
is
these metrics-
incredibly
But they don't sell
asset-light.
shoes.
They don't
Exactly.
sell shoes, that is true. But streaming is a big part of their business, is a growing part of their business.
Nobody's
As a-
going to buy Amazon either.
As a reporter, what is the metric that you most want
How many
to be able
Prime
to
members are
cover the
there?
company?
You know, that's what we want to know. What's interesting is that we talked about streaming.
You have a guess,
The streaming companies, the producers who are selling the shows, who are sort of working on that, a big part of how they figure out how much they should sell it for, they want to know how many Prime members there are. That community has a better window on exactly how big or how small that universe is.
We can't leave this conversation without asking about this murder investigation, whether this evokes the fight that Apple and the FBI brought to the fore, the debate rather about privacy, and how much of this data, as it's getting swept up, Ed, is ripe for authorities taking.
Yeah, no, so I think Amazon's position is basically, you know, we need a proper warrant, we need proper probable cause information before we hand that over to you. We're only going to see more of this as time goes on, not just for companies like Amazon, but Google and Apple, for that matter, that have their own sort of AI devices or their own AI systems that are recording all kinds of information from people. So that, I think,
Yeah, and isn't there, Venky, though, a risk to this? Because if they do subpoena the information, and if Amazon does turn it over, and again, these are ifs, won't we learn what many suspect, which is that Alexa or even the Google device is always listening? Yeah, you voice activated, as we did on the air, sort of as a joke on Power Lunch yesterday, and turn people's songs on. But isn't there a risk to that when people realize, man, this thing is always listening to me?
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, we know
Why would
this.
you want that in your home?
Well, Samsung has already shown, right? Their TVs were always listening. I think people are always going to have this trade-off between convenience and privacy. And the reality is, imagine we all go on Facebook and share so much information about us on Snapchat. Why? Because the convenience trumps the privacy. And I think, again, these tech companies are betting that these products like Google Home or Alexa or Echo, I'm sure Apple is going to have one, the convenience will trump the privacy. And as someone who just opened a Google Home in our home yesterday and had my daughters play with it, I can tell you my daughters didn't care whether they were listening to what they were saying or not.
Although it is worth noting, this case is coming out of Bentonville, Arkansas. I'll leave that there.
And it involved a hot tub. There's a lot of angles here.
Although there is a big competitor of Amazon's that is based in Arkansas. I'll just leave that there. All right,
That might be a factor.
All right, turning now to the markets as 2016 comes to a close. Some tech investors have reason to celebrate. For others, though, this year can't end soon enough. Let's send it over to Josh Lipton at One Market with the details. Josh.
That's right, Kayla. So let's start with one of the worst performing tech stocks in the S&P 500 this year, and that would be Salesforce. CEO Mark Benioff says the business software maker could reach $20 billion in annual revenue faster than any other enterprise software company. But the stock is down some 10% this year. Analysts say the street is still worried in part that Benioff might make a big acquisition given his flirtation with Twitter earlier this year.
For Salesforce to start moving higher in 2017, I think it's pretty simple. First of all, they just need to get back on message around growth plus margin expansion equals mid 20% cash flow growth. This is a strong fundamental company. They've got a lot of open-ended opportunities from a growth perspective, but you got to move away, frankly, from a lot of the discussion about M&A.
More than 90% of analysts rate CRM a buy, pointing to strong top-line growth, a growing product portfolio, and attractive risk-reward. Now, from a laggard to a leader, the best-performing tech stock this year is NVIDIA. It has surged some 250%. NVIDIA semiconductors are powering many exciting fields that investors want exposure to: AI, self-driving cars, and video games. Still, not everyone is a fan. Citron Research tweeted this morning that the market is disregarding headwinds for NVIDIA. In 2017, Citron sees this stock heading back to $90. NVIDIA, by the way, declined to comment on that report. Guys, back to you.
All right, thanks so much, Josh, for that. Ed Venky, the stock did reverse course today on that Citron tweet, as Josh just mentioned. We have so many people coming on and saying, invest in the semis because they can only go up from here, they're value stocks, but the sector as a whole, when you look at the S&P subgroup, most of them are up 20+% this year alone.
I think the big X factor, I think what's hard for visibility's sake is, a lot of the frontline suppliers, like whether it's an Apple or an Amazon for that matter, they tend to switch out on the back end a lot of times just to diversify their supply chain. They don't want to be beholden to too much one supplier versus another. That's a big part of it. NVIDIA has a special thing, though. Their processors are well regarded and can be applied to a lot of this data science we're talking about. So I think that's a big upside for them. But again, the X factor is when will the frontline suppliers switch them out?
Venky, do you agree that there are some risks coming ahead for NVIDIA?
Well, see, I think there are a couple of things going on in the semiconductor space that people need to understand. One, the space has consolidated massively. There's not a lot of startups coming in to threaten the incumbents. So it's probably the one area where the incumbents have a lot of leverage. Yeah, there's a risk of people switching out, but with NVIDIA in particular, they are the leaders in what's called GPU, which plays a big role in machine learning. And machine learning in AI is a big driver. I actually think of all the semis, NVIDIA has a great IP portfolio. I would be supportive. I wouldn't back off NVIDIA at this point.
All right. We'll got to leave it there. Ed Lee, Venky Ganesan, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.